It's Friday, January 16th. I'm Adam Walsh, and this is The Signal. If you tuned into the news lately, you know there's a lot going on, and it can feel scary, stressful, sometimes even hopeless. Today, we're pausing that news button and talking about how to find comfort. Yeah, from everything that's happening in the news that we're reading about, hearing about, experiencing together, and then the day-to-day and what comes with that. Today, Arlette Lazarenko and I were talking about, what do we do for the show, for the Friday show of this week? And we had this idea about finding comfort. And it's important, right? We all seek comfort, and this can be something very big and small, and this will be today's discussion, right? So for me, sometimes comfort, it's a good meal, it's going for a run. Then there's the bigger spirituality side of it, the mental health side of it. We're going to try to kind of touch on the artistic side, all of this stuff today. So as you're listening to us, we'll open the phone lines in a little bit, but the text line is open now, 709-327-8206. The Signal at cbc.ca for emails. And we've got a full studio. And we thought long and hard of who to invite, so I'm really happy with everyone who said yes and who is here. Michelle Daley is here, yoga instructor and owner of how do I say your yoga studio? I didn't even check this before, and I didn't want to get it wrong.
It's Bodhi.
Bodhi, yeah, because I was like, it's either Bodhi or Bodhi. So Bodhi Hot Yoga located in St. John's. How you doing?
I am so good. I am lovely. It's a beautiful topic we're here today to discuss. Mm-hmm. And when I thought about it, one thing kept replaying in my mind, mm-hmm. and how it is an internal journey. Mm. And it's not so much the external world that has control over how we feel, whether that be calm or happy. Mm-hmm. It is the internal journey within and the connection to how you feel every day. And I was thinking about everybody who knows me, whether it be my husband, even my child, my family, they all know that's my non-negotiable. Mm-hmm. It is what I do not sacrifice for anything. It is how I feel. And my happiness and my joy and my calm. And it's the most important thing of my day. And I've created that connection for many years now. And I don't sway far from that vibration of calm and happy and joyful. Mm. And it's something that everybody can do, but it's a mindful practice of going within.
That's a great way to start.
Yeah.
And we can unpack that as things roll with the conversation.
Yeah.
I'll bring Dr. Ada Vaziri into the conversation. Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm doing good. Thank Excellent. You for having me, and thank you for a great topic that you have chosen for your program today, because we know that a lot of people are spending difficult time these days, and it impacts our mental health directly. And it's hard for some people to prioritize their comfort and mental health these days. So it can be a great reminder for them from different perspectives that you should prioritize yourself and your comfort in order to taking care of yourself. And it doesn't mean that you are selfish. You are doing that because you are human. Mm.
Yeah, right. Well, it's taking care of yourself is really important.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got, like I said, we've got four guests here. Kathy Stock is here as well, singer-songwriter. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I love being able to dive into this with all of you. I think that this is a timely conversation for comfort.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. Tell folks a bit more about yourself.
Yeah, I'm a singer-songwriter, piano player, recording artist. That's my night job, we'll call it. My day job is I'm an autobiographer, so I guide people through writing their life story. I interview them and get their life story down on paper, which is also a super therapeutic process for people at the end of life or who are celebrating the life of somebody who's passed. So I get to work with people in an emotional realm all the time, and it's in an artistic way. And it's such a gift and such a blessing to me that not only is the arts comforting for me as an individual, but I feel like it's connecting and communicative and creates community in places where comfort is needed. So I love everything that I get to do. I feel very lucky.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And Father Paul Lundrigan is welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
It's good to see you. Remind folks who you are, Paul.
I am a Roman Catholic priest. I am the pastor of the Catholic community serving the people of Torbay, Flat Rock, Pooch Cove, now Portugal Cove, St. Philip's.
Right.
And we have one church now, and it's in Torbay, Holy Trinity Church. And that's where I've been working now for over 12 years. And I love it there. It's a wonderful community. And all this week, I think everybody's been impacted by everything that's happening in the news, and some more than others. And we were praying for this last weekend and talking about it, and it was amazing the number of people who shared stories of friends and family or friends of relatives who are, in troubled areas of the world.
Yeah.
And how it's impacting them, how worried they are about them. And that makes it so much more personal. I was at the seniors' home in the area yesterday. We had a celebration there. And it was a much different feeling. They're very concerned, and we prayed for everyone in the world, but their perspective is so different in that they've experienced so much and gone through so much. Sort of the "this too shall pass" attitude. We're going to have to suffer through this, but we'll get through this. We've gotten through worse, and we'll get through more in the future. But I take my cue from a lot of these people who have experienced such trauma throughout their lifetime and in their communities, and know how to not just survive but thrive and to keep going. And so I'm trying to implement a lot of what they've been teaching me for years as well.
So then what do you see when folks come in, because there is such for spiritual comfort of going, sometimes whether it's talking to a priest or going into a church, for some folks it'll be taking a moment to pray or connecting with people in the congregation. There's a whole range, but what, over your years of doing this, what have you noticed about the comfort people can seek through spirituality or even through the physical brick and mortar side of things?
I believe a lot of it has to do with the sense of belonging.
Yeah.
And connection. As Kathy was saying earlier, there's a real sense in, this is an inner journey as well. And it's a very personal thing, trying to find your own sense of peace and centeredness. But we are social animals. We are called to be with one another. One of, the great sayings from Jesus was, "Where two or more are gathered together in my name, there will I be in your midst." And it's that whole idea is that whether we, when we do come together, now sometimes you have to be apart from people. You need to have quiet time.
That too, yeah.
And you need to reflect then on what, everything you've seen and everything you've heard. But I think we really became aware of it during COVID, when people were so isolated around the world. And we lost that sense of community, particularly teenagers who were entering their teens and going through a dramatic change in their life and their outlook on life and socialization. And they didn't get that opportunity to be together and work it out together. And I'm still hearing from people talking about their kids, from that age range, and say they're still trying to learn.
Yeah.
They still don't know how, all of their social interaction is online now because they spent so many years. That was the only connection they had. And that was a good thing for that time.
But reality isn't through a screen, right?
Yeah.
Except, fine, there was what was because of what was happening, but then the reality of community and connection, everything you're talking about, is not the screen. It's the physical.
It's
the
being
contact.
together. It's seeing people's faces. It's reacting to what they're saying, what they're doing, how they're smiling, everything that we do, to be able to make that eye contact with people, make that connection, that has helped people. And, like I say, I think we've lost that. For a lot of people have lost that because of the devices that we use these days. And, I think they're great. I use mine all the time. And we live stream our services so that we can, for people who are isolated, can still feel part of the community and reach out to them and and get in touch with us, let us know what's going on, and then go visit with them. But I think it's a tool, and we have to use it properly.
Yeah, I actually was thinking about this earlier this morning, how we have to be our own filter to what comes into our vibration. That if you're not mindful, a lot of people, what they see online and what they're watching on TV and seeing in the news is instilling fear, is instilling anxiety and stress into their life. And it is impossible to keep feeding that and be calm. So it's up to us, like I was saying, the journey inward, to be our own protector of what we're allowing in. So if what you're watching and what you're seeing and what you're reading is causing you stress and anxiety or feeling unsafe, it is a matter of filtering it out. It's impossible to continue to focus on what it is that you do not want and not expect it to grow and expand. It's the simple law of attraction. So to be careful of what you're focusing on each day. Be careful of the dialogue that you tell yourself every day, because it is the dialogue that is creating the reality.
Well, and that helps set up, like, with algorithms and everything else, right?
Yes.
You start, as they say these days, doom scrolling. And all of a sudden it's like click, click, click. The algorithm's like, oh, Adam Walsh really likes all of this negative type news, and then it just keeps going and going. So like you said, if I kind of take a moment and be like, okay, let's throw some kitty cats in here, and let's get some baked goods in here, and like let me kind of, and also let me put the phone down and maybe read something that's a little more delightful, or take the time to be present with whoever's in front of me, like you, all of you here with me right now. There's importance in that. Ada, what do you think from your background side of it?
Yeah, about that. The role of spirituality in difficult times. A lot of time when people are in are experiencing difficult things in their life, they feel like that they have lost the meaning of the life. And one of the things can help them to get back that comfort is to try to take back the meaning. For some people, it can be the work they are doing, the responsibilities in life, the relation to the people they love. Very simple things like gardening, anything can help people to take back that meaning. And one of the important things can be a spirituality for the people who are believing it. Any form of that. It's really helpful for people to feel that their life has some meanings, bigger than all of that distressing events happening around them in the world.
Yeah. How hard is it, do you find, for people to get, because not everyone will arrive to like your doors set up with that thought outlook, right? How hard is it, do you find, for people that sometimes, some people will be like, yeah, I'm there, I get it. Others may not. Like, what's the work like for people to get to that point of realizing some of what you're saying? Like, is it hard to get
about
people
finding a meaning in their life? You can simply try to be more mindful and observe anything that you are enjoying, anything that you enjoy spending time with, anything that you care about. That can be the meaning of your life for you, for anyone. It doesn't need to be something very huge, very humanistic, or very complex concept. Anything that you are enjoying and can define yourself based on that. That meaningfulness is related about your role in the world.
Yeah.
Anything that you are doing nice things for a neighbor, for example. Try to be a responsible citizen in your community, in your society. Anything, you just need to pay more attention to anything you are doing actually, to be more mindful about whatever that you are doing, and taste them more deeply to realize that which of them serves better for you, and you care more about them.
Kathy Stock, what do you think about that?
It's an interesting conversation that the places that we go to for comfort can also be the places that can cause stress. Like, I think social media is one of those places. One example I have is over the summer when we were experiencing all the wildfires here in Newfoundland, and we were seeing constant images of that. People who were displaced from their homes were seeing their communities burn. Like it was something that even if we weren't in those communities directly, we felt very impacted and scared. I live in Torbay, very wooded area, and I, was keeping my eyes and ears open to make sure that things weren't going to go in a bad direction. I was coming in from Greens Harbor, where I'm from, over the Trans-Canada Highway with my son when the Paddy's Pond fire broke out.
Right.
And so we were in that gridlock of traffic on the highway, trying to get back into St. John's. And I just remember being probably more scared than I've been in a while, seeing the billowing smoke and all of that. And by the time I got home with my son, like one of the things that really struck me was in that line of traffic, we were all having the same experience, even though we were like individually in our cars, we were all having a shared experience. And I got home and I was just thinking about that a lot. And one of the ways that I, as an artist, find comfort and kind of resurrect feelings inside of myself to put them outside of myself is through songwriting. And so I sat down and I wrote a song about that experience and about what we were all kind of feeling as Newfoundlanders and bearing that weight for each other. And I recorded it just on my computer at home. It was very raw. And I put it on Facebook, and I was like, maybe this will bring comfort to somebody else. And that song, Rain in Newfoundland, was shared 150,000 times because people found comfort in it. Mm-hmm. And it was a sad and scary time, and it's a sad song.
Yeah.
But like some of my favorite songs that I find comfort from are the saddest songs that you can drum up. And I think that's, on this same mechanism that people were being stressed out by seeing images of fires, people found comfort by finding a song that they resonated with. Mm-hmm. And so you're right. Like we have to be the ones who filter what we're taking from this thing that can be positive, like reaching out to people who are shut in their homes with a faith service, and also weeding out the stuff that's causing us to lay awake at night and have our nervous system just completely rattled. It's an interesting conversation. I have not successfully figured out how to manage my own stress around social media. I want to stay plugged in while also not being constantly plugged in. But I think music and arts really help to settle that heightened nervous system that can happen when we're in those spaces. Yeah. And I think we can sometimes find that in those spaces too.
Yeah.
You know what I think too? It's in those moments of distress when you're seeing something and you want to help. Mm-hmm. And like what's going on in the world today, I mean, it's everywhere now, how it almost feels like the darkness is kind of moving closer. Yeah. But with the world, there's always going to be balance. So where there's dark, there's also light. And I can't help from a place of stress or fear. Mm-hmm. I help from a place of light because that's where I can actually give more to you and give you light. So therefore, you can give light to somebody else. So what I mean is life is throwing contrast at you all the time. Right? Yeah. There's always a reason for you to be unhappy. There's something that is making you angry. But it's like self-trained inward work that helps you to really create an alignment with yourself and how you feel, so that no matter what's going on in the external world, you know you have control over how you feel. That's why it is the most important thing.
I have to remind myself of that so often because I'll have feelings and I'm like, why am I feeling this way? Yeah. What is causing this? And then I try to think about like, well, actually, there's not a good reason for me to be feeling that. It's just
you haven't trained your mind long enough.
Yeah, it's a constant, like just me thinking about that because and for the psychologists in the room too, like and correct me on this, but like. Sometimes it's perfectly okay to be sad, angry, all this other stuff. But I want to have an awareness of why and what is causing it in order to try to get back onto the path of feeling okay.
And also what to do with that.
Yeah.
Like it's okay, like you say, feeling sadness is okay, especially when you've had experiences of loss. You are going to feel sad. You are going to grieve. But then to do that properly, to express that and not say, well, there's nothing I can do about it. The person is gone and push forward. Ignoring how you feel is not good. It's not healthy. Mm-hmm. Being angry, people say, oh, you should never get angry. Never go to bed. And I think, yes, you're supposed to get angry. But then channel it properly and say, like you were just talking about, why am I feeling this rage? Why am I feeling this great anger? Is it some injustice I've just seen? Is it something going wrong in the world? What is making me feel, or is it something that's happened to me? And I've been triggered now. One way or the other, you have to look at these things and not try to ignore them and say, I'm just going to be positive and fake it, put a fake smile on my face. That doesn't bring you peace.
Well, your body only knows how you feel.
Yeah.
It's not listening to what you're saying.
Exactly. But a lot of people, though, try to convince themselves, their bodies, their people around them, the world, everything is fine. And that's why I'm saying, like, I think we look at these darker emotions as being bad, and they're not. I think they are part of what we are. I do a lot of funerals, and a lot of people use that reading from Ecclesiastes. There is a time for everything. One of the lines in it that upsets a lot of people is there's a time to hate and a time to love. And they say, no, there's never a time to hate. And I say, yeah, there is. There's a time to hate injustice. There's a time to hate bullying. There's a time to hate all sorts of bad things that are happening. And we're seeing that right now. This is the time to hate those things, not to hate people, not to turn against people and turn our anger towards them, but to say there's something unjust happening here. What can I do to right this wrong? How can I help this person to understand that their actions and their words are hurting me and the people around me? How can I help them to see the light? Because they're acting out of that anger, out of that darkness, and they're lashing out. How can I show them love? So, yeah, I think all of this happens. That's why I like getting together with groups of people, because I think when we see good people doing good things, we can learn from them as well and say, okay, this is a great way to act. This is a great way to be. I want to be like her. She, you talk about giving your light to others, and that's what we're called to do, I believe. And when you see other good people and you feel that goodness, you feel that light, and I don't have to be that angry. I can do something about this.
But it's also not because I choose my alignment over anything else and my joy over anything else. It's not that bad things don't happen. It says that when bad things happen, I have more tools.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I know how to navigate my way back to feeling better and well.
Which is so important.
That goes back to the inward journey. It's you have to make it a daily practice about how you feel. It's the most important thing that you can give to yourself.
Yeah.
It's more important than anything else. It's how we navigate through the world.
Yeah.
And you were saying, there's a time for hate and there's a time for love. And it brings me back to the emotional scale, how the highest vibration of all is gratitude. And one of the lowest is not grief, we'll let it pass, grief and fear and anger, all of the lower emotional scale. It is almost to be the witness of it and not the participant in the feeling, because what you're going to focus on will grow, right? So almost to be able to navigate through difficult times, to be able to see the world the way that it is and move towards how you go back to how you feel, because how you feel is creating your reality. And it's not going to go away. I mean, the world is going to show us contrast all the time. Yeah. It's going to be like that forever. So how are we going to navigate through that? How are we going to cultivate our own calm through chaos?
Ada, what do you think about when it comes to, we're talking about comfort, and part of comfort is also sometimes finding ways to cope, right? How do you cope with things? Like, when you talk with folks, as a psychologist, like, what do you for coping skills through a day, and then how to move beyond it, right? To build on some of what Michelle is saying there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's right. At first, as almost everyone spoke about that, validation about negative emotions is very important, and anything that we are feeling, and it doesn't mean that being sadness or anger are good. It means that it's okay as a human to have those kind of bad emotions, and providing those kind of emotions for other people around us, or using any kind of equipment can provide that validation for us, like listening to sad music.
Yeah.
That music actually is providing validation for the feeling that people actually have. But the important matter here is balance. The coping mechanisms are supposed to provide you balance. They're not meant to help you to get rid of the distress events completely. We should adjust our expectations from the coping mechanisms. So the distress is there, even when your coping mechanisms are working. But coping mechanisms helps you to adjust the level and being able to be focused on positive aspects of your life or enjoying your life about that. And being able to continue your functions at life, at responsibilities. And that balance is important matter.
You know, I love that. I suffered from very, very, very debilitating anxiety from the majority of my 30s.
So capital A, right? Yeah, the big... Yeah,
debilitating. Yeah. Lived in my home, would not come out. Right. And couldn't even get to the grocery store. Going anywhere, I would feel like my chest was caving in, my palms would sweat, my heart rate would rise. I would feel like someone was smothering me all the time for many, 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 many years, the better part of a decade. What I know now is something that I take with me that Esther Hicks said. Esther Hicks is an inspirational speaker. She's an author. And she had mentioned one time, and it changed everything for me. It changed how I deal with acute moments and when momentum is getting away from me. She had spoken about a vehicle being on the top of a hill and it has no brakes, and how someone is just going to nudge the car and you're standing there, and if you wait for the very bottom to try and stop that car, it's going to run you right over, right? It's got way too much momentum going. But if as soon as the person edges it over the edge of the cliff or the road, and you jump out in front of it right away, you're slowing the momentum. It's easier to stop the momentum. So it's training your mind to, when you are feeling dis-ease or discomfort or acute moments of anxiety, to get out ahead of it. And how I deal with it in those moments, because it comes out of nowhere for me. I mean, I live a life where there's nothing that can really cause me a lot of stress. I have a happy home. I have a job that, it's not even a job. It's a calling. It's my passion.
It's
my purpose.
Of what you're doing.
I'm living my purpose.
It's fused into you as you. Yeah.
But the old me, the old self, it's like one day it just creeps right in. It's like, oh, it just rears its ugly head. It's like, oh, you thought you were fine, right? Here's a bunch of anxiety. And then I get out ahead of it, meaning I kind of slow the momentum by breath. It's the only way to focus your way back into calm.
So right away, the breathing brings you comfort.
I breathe, because you know what happens when you're breathing? You breathe yourself into the present moment. You breathe yourself into slowing momentum of thought. And if you can slow the momentum of thought long enough that there's a little pause between the breath, then source, what I would call, or God, energy, universal energy, comes in and gives you a thought that's more aligned with who you truly are than the manifestation of what is giving you anxiety, or even unknowing what it is just calming that momentum, is slowing the momentum. You got out ahead of it. You're not waiting for the very bottom when you're in a major panic attack to start trying to figure out your way out. Because now I have tools. I know I can breathe my way back. And if you can't find your way into alignment you can never think it, you'll only feel it, breathing back, take a nap. My husband said, don't you dare go on air and tell grown people to take a nap. He did. He's going to love this conversation now.
I love a good nap,
tell him I've been
you
doing
know
that
why?
for years.
Yeah, because it stops resistance.
Yeah.
It stops the resistance. And therefore, you come in slow momentum.
Yeah. I think that's part of it, too. We have better coping mechanisms today, better tools. And psychology has really made a difference, but also learning from different traditions, faith traditions, but also lifestyle traditions like yoga and meditation and transcendental meditation, all these different sorts of things. We, for years in this area, prayer was the thing, especially for people who had limited education, limited ability to read. And there were no experts. The priest went into a community, and he was the doctor, the lawyer, the judge, the counselor. He did everything, and he was completely unqualified.
And also you had folks who would just not talk about things, bury it deep down and cover it in alcohol.
Yeah.
Which is not helpful.
But a lot of other people figured out that there were ways that they coped, like praying, especially prayers like the rosary.
Right.
Which traditional prayer, you kept your hands busy with the beads. You were moving your hands and you were focusing on this. It was a very calming and centering thing to do.
It's bringing you into the present moment.
And then doing it with others helped to spread that calm, especially in crisis situations. So that for a long time, as part of our tradition, when there was someone who had died, you'd gather at the home and a crowd of people would be there and you'd pray the rosary. Now, I used to do a skit about it and make fun of it. And, there's all sorts of stories that people tell about how they giggled and laughed through the rosary and how their parents would give them dirty looks. But it was a time when people got together and they were focused on the grief or focused on a difficult time or just focused on settling themselves at the end of a busy day or at the beginning of a day that was coming up. So, that kind of worked. And I had a friend who lived here in Newfoundland, passed away a few years ago. He was originally from the States. He was Jewish. Arnold Bennett was his name. Fantastic guy. And he had a much different outlook on God, which I've adopted. He had a much greater sense of what the divine is. And, as you talk about it, the universe and energy. And I think that's what we all are. Mm-hmm. And he said, I don't believe that God listens to our prayers. And I said, really? He said, no.
And he told this to a priest. Right?
Yeah, I said,
Bold.
The stuff that concerns us is so minuscule in comparison to the vast life of the whole universe.
But do you believe you are God? Do you believe you're separate?
Just let me finish now. Yeah. I said, but you do pray. And he used to lead prayer services with the community. He said, oh, yeah. I said, so who are you praying to? He said, no one. He said, so why do you do it? And he said, because we're doing it together. Mm. And it brings us comfort, and it brings us calm, and it brings us focus. Yes, to answer your question.
Yeah, do you believe
I
there's
believe
separation?
That's why I said we are all that energy.
Yeah.
And it's not so much separation, we're all united. I don't believe that we're separated from one another. I believe that we're all connected in life and in death and wherever we happen to be. So, now my particular expression of religion helps me to put shape to that belief and helps me to express it. And I've grown up with this, and I've looked at a lot of other religions and have huge, great respect for people of faith, of all sorts of faith, and no faith whatsoever. But my particular faith that I've grown up with and worked with has helped me and helped a lot of other people, so that's why I've stayed with it. But I hear from a lot of people nowadays with kids your age, they say, oh, my children, they don't go to church anymore. I've got 3 grandchildren. None of them have been baptized. Nothing's been, they don't go anywhere near the church. Oh, that's awful, that's awful. I said, drug dealers? Are they thieves? Are they breaking in? No, my God. So what's your child doing? Oh, my gosh, they're really good to their kids. They're involved in everything in the community. They help do fundraising. They're involved in coaching their kids and they do all sorts. Yes, because you planted good seeds. Mm-hmm. And in the end, the God that we believe in and we talk about and our scriptures talk about doesn't care about whether they go into the building. I think it's helpful. Mm-hmm. I think our rituals can actually help people, and they have, like I've seen that over and over again. So I'm not saying, we don't need churches anymore. I think we still do, and I think it's a nice place to gather, and it's a nice way of continuing our history and all that we've learned and incorporating all the new things that we're learning and build on that. And our younger people are saying, yeah, there's so much more out there to learn, and we can learn it now. Mm. We're not in tiny little isolated communities with very poor education and very poor communication. We have the world at our fingertips. And I think, great, go out and explore the world.
and there's some choosing to be better in it, and taking these lessons from that have been passed on, right?
Yeah.
From communities, from the richness of the communities of Newfoundland and Labrador and beyond, and around the world. Kathy, I'm curious. Some of this is talking about journeys, right? Your first album, and there's a life journey you've been on. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. When I was 28, I was asked to write a song for TEDx. TED Talks.
Yeah.
And it was the first one we had here in St. John's. And the theme was overcoming adversity. And at that point in my life, I was 28 years old. I was nice and skinny. I had 2 young boys, and I was living my dream, playing music and staying home with my kids. And it was lovely. And I didn't really have much adversity to write about, but I wrote this song from this place of, thinking about my ancestors being from Newfoundland and how difficult it must have been to make a life here in the 1800s. And so I wrote it from that place of just Newfoundlanders overcoming adversity. And so that was lovely. And I got to go to this event and hear Holocaust survivor and, people who've overcome addiction and just like this whole gamut of people who would overcome adversity. And 6 months later, I was 29, and I was sitting across from my family doctor being told that I had stage 2 Hodgkin's lymphoma. So I was diagnosed with cancer at that point. My children were 7 and 3 years old, and I embarked on the greatest adversity I had had in my life up to that point. And this song that I had written called Overcome, I was asked to play it at the Daffodil House while I was still going through chemotherapy. So I had my head, wrapped up. I didn't have any hair, and I remember going to, it was Cancer Survivors Day, but I was still in the middle of my, chemotherapy treatment. And so I went to this event, and they were giving out buttons, and they were like, "How long have you been a survivor?" And I was like, TBD?
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. It was such an awkward thing, and I was facing my mortality kind of just as my independence was happening, when you're in your 20s and you're, kind of becoming a full-fledged adult while still then becoming dependent on other people. And it was so strange. And I remember singing this song for a group of cancer patients at the Daffodil House. And then 6 months after that was playing it, for a Hope fundraiser for the Cancer Center, and then playing it for Young Adult Cancer Canada. And this song has become this anthem for cancer survivorship that I never intended for it to be when I wrote it. And I wrote it very quickly from a place where I hadn't even experienced that trial yet. And so divinely inspired is the only way that I can, even talk about it. But it's become this anthem, and it's become something that I get to do in community, in real time, in real life with other people. I remember going to my first cancer conference and a retreat for cancer survivors, and getting there and seeing tissue boxes around the room and being like, oh gosh, this is going to be torture, and laughing harder than I have ever laughed with a group of people, being able to tell every dark joke that I wanted to about my diagnosis because everyone in the room didn't find it awkward and got it and understood it. And there's something to be said for not just how art connects us, but just how community can lighten the load. I think that's why the Me Too movement was so huge, because people actually sat across the table from other women and said, "Me too, I see you." Yeah. And anytime people can do that, it's so comforting, it's so empowering, it blasts isolation. Brene Brown talks about shame, and how shame cannot survive vulnerability. If you can sit across the table from somebody you can trust and tell them, "I'm struggling," and they receive it and say, "Me too, and I got you," there's nothing more comforting than that. And so this song kind of snowballed into this thing that was able to not only bring comfort to people, but bring comfort to me, and allow a group of people to connect with each other in a way I never even intended for it to be. So it was pretty magical.
I've always found that with music. It's a real connector for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Whether you're singing with a group and you're a great singer, like I sing with the choir, and I love it. It's one of my greatest outlets, and greatest stress relievers. But for people who are not as musically inclined or just don't feel comfortable singing in public, listening to music, dancing to music, and being together, and how many young people take out their phones right away and check each other's song lists. What are you listening to now? And isn't that great? And I think it's why Taylor Swift became so popular, is because kids were so isolated.
Yeah.
This was a connecting point.
Seeing themselves in
we
it.
all, I like her too. So I belong to a whole group of people that feel good about something.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel even better.
I played over the summer at Anchor Inn in Twillingate, and there was people there from a lot of tourist season.
Oh, that's a great spot.
Yeah,
I love
it's
it
lovely.
there. Yeah.
I'm going to do a stint out there this summer
Cool.
for like a week. I'm super excited. But it's a listening room, and people come to
Yeah.
like listen to music. And there was a family there, and I could tell that they were Newfoundlanders, but they were really nostalgic. Like anytime I played a Newfoundland song, they were like, so excited. And I was like, okay, they live away. Like I could tell that by looking at them. And so after I had played Grey Foggy Day, and they were singing, and it was just like, it was a really awesome night. And at one point, one of them came over to me when I was on break and with tears in her eyes, and she said, my aunt is here with us, and she had a stroke, and she's lost a lot of her language center, a lot of her ability to communicate with us. But Grey Foggy Day is her favorite song. And as soon as you started singing it, she sang along to every word. Wow. And I was like, how powerful is this? Like it taps into a part of our brain that just automatically, like a lot of times people, the whole opioid epidemic and all that stuff happened because the pain centers for physical pain and mental pain and emotional pain are so close to each other in the brain. And so when one gets numbed, the other gets numbed. I think the same is for comfort. Like the things that kind of like comfort us, music that comforts us mentally can also comfort us physically. I think people can actually like stop feeling as in physical pain when they start hearing things that comfort their heart and soul. And it was just so powerful to see music and community bring so much comfort to so many different types of people.
Yeah. Dr. Vaziri, and this is the part where it's like, we'll talk about coping and comfort and everything else, and also just that little check and balance on and we've kind of, I mentioned it a little bit ago of like, back in and people still do it, like the unhealthy side of like, if you go to cope and it's some form of substance, right? It could be alcohol, it could be something else or whatever. What are your thoughts on the unhealthy coping side of things and what people should be careful about for when they're trying to think about how to get through something?
Yeah. We spoke about coping mechanisms, but how we can figure out if they are not helping me anymore. Yeah. There are some red flags we should be careful and mindful about them. The first and most important one is impaired functioning. If you are not able to take care of your responsibilities in your normal daily life, that's an important thing that tells you that something maybe is impaired in your brain. Yeah. The other thing is that relationships. Are you able to continue the previous levels of relationship with other people or not? One of the other important things is sleep. Are you able to get enough hours of sleep? And when you are, maybe you are able to take enough hours of sleep, but be mindful, are you refreshed enough the day after when you wake up or not? All of these things tells you that maybe you are in a stage that you need more support. I want to emphasize that it is not equal to failure.
No.
It's just because that you need to change the level of support that you are receiving. Yeah. And the best form of that is to find a mental service provider one. And it's better to be realistic. Anyone that you can get is the best one for you. Because it's not necessarily that everyone are having access to any form of mental health services around. So if you need help, it just makes you being human, not a failure. Yeah. And but how we can help us to not end up to that stage? Prioritizing our needs, prioritizing our comfort, for example. Some people think that in order to some people have these questions that which levels of empathy is healthy amount of empathy. As a human, having empathy to other people's when you are following the news is a very healthy thing. But you shouldn't let yourself to be exposed constantly to bad news. Yeah. If you try to be more mindful about that and put the bad news, if you constantly follow the news, it doesn't make you to be more too informative about the news. You are just exhausting your mental health and mental system. So, and people sometimes feel that there's some things maybe we call as survivor guilt. Some people feel guilty if they are putting aside bad news and try to just enjoy all of great things they have in their lives. But it comes from keep comparing ourselves to other peoples. I have this privilege, this safety now, and there are some other peoples, other side of the world, they don't have that access to that. Be realistic. Just torturing yourself with exposing yourself to bad news doesn't make the world a better place. You just need to be more mindful about any responsibilities that you have in your life. The most important is prioritizing your comfort and mental health. And don't feel selfish about that. It's being, as a human, we have great characteristics, but our mental system has limited capacity. We should be mindful about that limitations. Even an airplane, they can constantly run them. They need to land and stay there for maintenance. Our mental system works the same. We need to get some time for ourselves to be able to provide sustainable empathy.
That's good.
And like what they always say about that oxygen mask thing that they always say, like put yours on first before you put someone else on, because if you don't have oxygen, so like
great example.
Yeah, so then use that for social media and everything else in the world, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
We often on the show talk about eco-anxiety, like climate change, and what comes out though is that yes, I mean if you take all the time being worried about what's happening with climate change, that is unhealthy for you. But if you actually sometimes take some action to try to contribute and think a little bit about feeling that you're empowered a little bit, I find I've been told from other folks I've interviewed that they find that. So like extrapolate that to life as well, of empowerment as well, of being something. If I'm right on that, Doc.
Yeah, that's completely right, because our brain is wired to react to distressful events because it feels that it losing its control. It means when our brain feels that it doesn't have any control on the situation, it feels like that there is a danger around. So shifting our attention to our normal daily life is really helpful to take back some levels, at least based on the levels of influence we got from that distress, to take back some levels of that control in their life. And it's very healthy for our mental system.
Yeah. So what do you, not a whole lot left in the show, but for your own comfort, right? What do you, big or small, what do you do? What do you seek for comfort? I've mentioned, like for me, on the small side, it's food and cooking, or sometimes like going for a run. Like that really comforts me. And like the bigger side of it, it's a bigger discussion. But like for each of you, like what's something that like you think about or that you do? Michelle, what about yourself?
Well, I own a yoga studio.
There you go.
I was going to say pretty obvious.
That's big and small.
But I learned very quickly that I wasn't just teaching yoga poses.
No, of course.
That the yoga poses were the gateway to your highest self, to the highest version of yourself.
When did you, like, what was that realization of it? Because you're doing it, then you start to see, you're like, this is so much deeper, and we're connecting so much more. This is so important. Then, and I mean, yoga pose is great, but the depth you're talking about is much more.
Because it's moving energy.
Yeah.
It's moving energy, and it wasn't long. I mean, I placed my hands on someone's head one time, and I could tell that they were pregnant. And I could tell someone's nervous system was in fight or flight, and they were in active addiction. I've placed my hands on people's head and have seen loved ones. So it's energy, and it needs to move. Like she was just saying, your system will start to shut down. The plane has to land to refuel.
Yeah.
But yoga is moving the energy, and if you don't move it, it will get stuck and manifest as disease in your body.
Yeah.
Right? So it has to move. So yoga and breathwork, great way. It's what I do to keep myself sane. It makes me a happier person. It makes me a healthier person. It makes me more patient. It makes me friendlier, calmer, more loving. I feel more balanced. I feel better because I rolled out my mat and I took that hour to go inward, to let go of the outside world, and to balance and harmonize my energy through movement and breath, through connection, to making it one, so the outside world doesn't exist for that hour.
Ada, when you're not wearing your psychologist hat, what do you do for comfort?
One of the most, of course, I try to use and get benefits of anything that I've learned from the science of psychology in my personal life, especially in difficult time. One of the best things is to be focused on your routines, the very simple routines that you have in your life. For example, if you prefer to have your coffee 8 a.m., try to stick to that. It's helpful not only in the daily life, but also and especially in the more difficult days of your life. Sticking to routines is really, really helpful for you. The other thing is try to physical activity, like yoga. It's very important. I can't stress enough about the role of physical activity, any type of that you enjoy. Based on the evidence, based on the research, physical activity can be even more influential on serious mental disorders on children than medications. This is the importance of that. The other things is music or any other types of artistic activities, because it calms down your nervous system and it's really helpful. The other things is to try to reviewing all of the meaningful things that you have in your life and even any spiritual things that you believe in it. That spirituality can be as simple as the role you have in society based on your job or the love you have for your kids.
I tell you, when I was getting ready for work this morning, hopping into the shower, I was playing Neil Diamond's "Brother Loves Traveling Salvation" show, and
Nice.
I tell you, that set me up for a success today. It's such a good song. Kathy, what do you do for comfort?
Songwriting's definitely like one of my bigger ones if I'm processing big feelings. My oldest son just moved away, so I'm going through a little bit of an empty nest situation, and I wrote a song and I shared it with some of my songwriter friends, and they were like, too sad to release. And I was like, well, you know what? I got it up and out of me, so it's for me. Maybe we'll just keep that one at home. The smaller things that I kind of just do like throughout the day. Sugar's probably my drug of choice. I do love having a good cupcake when I feel sad.
Same.
But it does.
Not proud of, but
It does help sometimes. It's like a Band-Aid. I love my dog. I love playing with my dog, walking my dog. Anytime I get to look at his goofy little face, it makes my day better. Yeah. And connecting with other human beings in real time. I'm a very extroverted person, and I've realized that I get my energy from other people, but I can also get into these. I work from home, so I get into these slumps where I cannot see people for a couple of days and still do my life. And I have to make a conscious effort. I actually have a group of girlfriends that have just started doing like a craft night once a month. And none of us are crafty, but it just ends up being hilarious. And I learned how to unsuccessfully crochet and those types of things. So just getting in front of other people, getting offline and getting in front of other people in the real world.
We got an email from Pat. Good afternoon. I was raised Roman Catholic in Nova Scotia. We went to church every Sunday, and right after Mass, down to the church hall for a catechism class. Is that right? Get the nod there. As it was called back then. I was an altar boy and actually stayed at it until I was 17 years old. I don't go to church as regular anymore, but when I do, I've come to realize that it is 1 hour or so out of a busy, information-filled week that I can reflect on life, allow my mind to go wherever it wants to go. It's quite peaceful, actually. I don't think humans do that enough anymore. Take 1 hour out of a week for oneself. Regards. P.S. Please tell Father Lundrigan that I do pay attention to the Mass also. Final thoughts from you today with a minute left.
Okay, now the pressure is on. People are actually paying attention during Mass? Oh, my God, I didn't realize that. Now I've got to work at it more. No, for me, it's trying to find balance.
Yeah.
Like yourself, I'm very extroverted, and I get energized by, which is why I think I'm lucky to be in the position I'm in, with crowds of people around, and I feel that energy, and it's great to feed off it. But the balance is having time for myself, taking time, quiet time to pray, to meditate, to reflect, but also to play music, to sing, to be with other groups, to walk. Unlike you, I can't run. My hips and knees won't allow that anymore, but I'll power walk and burn off some nervous energy, but also burn off some calories, hopefully, and some of the blood sugars that are piling up inside me. So, like all of these things, it's finding a balance. It's not like I challenge myself with going out and helping people in troubled times, like now. but we also have to remember to take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
It's a great end note. Thank you all for coming in for this discussion. Thank you all
Thanks,
for
Adam.
Thank you.
Thank you all for listening, folks. The Signal at cbc.ca for emails. Next week, Monday, new political podcast is on the go. The Honorable and the Hack is what it's called. It's Alex Bill and Andrew Parsons. Both of them will be here to talk politics and a look at the year ahead and what's going on and all that stuff. But until then, just, hopefully we can all find some peace of mind this weekend. And if you get a weekend or this evening. And, again, thanks for listening. Cheers.